Welcome back to the World Equestrian Center in Ocala, Florida, where we are just a few minutes away from the first elite teams race here in the 2024 DEKA Fit World Championship. I am Xander Keene. He is Luke Halterman. This morning we saw some exciting action in the elite individuals as Lauren Weeks and Dylan Scott came away with their first ever DEKA Fit World titles, but maybe now the most exciting format in hybrid racing, team races, dynamic strategy. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. This is when it gets very spicy, and I'm excited to see the output from these athletes because you talk about anaerobic by yourself, anaerobic for sure on the teams aspect.
Yeah, if you're new to DEKA Fit Teams, we'll have a lot of time to talk about that. Here's a look at the live stream schedule as we had our DEKA Fit Elite male and female individual races. We'll have one race per stream here with the team races coming up in just a few minutes, with our female teams a little bit later this afternoon, the co-ed teams, and then finishing it off early evening, the male teams as well. And then similar format Saturday and Sunday. So if this is your first race tuning in this weekend, welcome. I guess if you're watching later on, well, you're about to find out what's going to happen in the archive. But it's going to be an exciting weekend. Already has gotten underway. 2 of the 15 Elite World Championships have been decided, which means there's 13 remaining, and we're looking forward to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe on OCR Report so you can stay up to date on everything.
Here was the elite women's race, first one of the day on the elite side, and right from the beginning, Lauren Weeks took it out. You see her here running. She lapped most of the field early on. A dominant wire-to-wire win for Lauren Weeks.
Had a huge lead. And of course, Catherine Fosbender getting second place, and maybe her second or third DEKA Fit ever. So pretty accomplishing on that end as well, too. The one person we did not get a podium or a conversation with at the end.
And on the men's side, Dylan Scott, you see there on the right, in control from the beginning as Dylan Scott made his move about halfway through the race, dropped Nick Riker at that point, and cruised from there. Dylan Scott with his world championship. Grayson Kilgore, great improvement, kind of similar to Catherine Fosbender.
Yeah,
only his third.
Absolutely.
This was his third. We heard from him, his third DEKA Fit Elite race as an individual. He's made an improvement each time. This time he made his move on the bike decisively, getting second place in that spot. And, just all the way through these fields. We really did see, as we talked about, kind of in the open, and then as the races unfolded, a lot of depth, both at the top but also the mid-pack of that top 10. We saw European athletes come over and hold their own as well. So I think this is, again, as we've said, the first truly world championship feel for DEKA Fit, and it's had that feel, and you think it's only going to grow from here with that international contingent.
Absolutely. It seems like the opposite of High Rocks, right, where High Rocks has a very big European, Asian type of feel, where over here in America it was like slowly grabbing on. Now it really is here. DEKA is just the opposite. It has a huge North American presence in Canada and in USA as well too. But as far as now finally reaching out over into Europe and stuff, it seems like it is finally getting that international presence that this sport needs for its growth and purposes. Next year is going to be exciting to see. Yeah,
it's interesting how these two races played out in very similar fashions. You had maybe who was the, favorite coming in the top seed with a decisive victory. You had two athletes that are a bit newer to the sport in Catherine Fosbender and Grayson Kilgore finished second, and then some veterans, previous world podiums who maybe, we heard from Morgan Schulz and Nick Riker during our post-race interviews. Morgan, didn't have the lead up that she wanted, really kind of took the pressure off, wasn't exactly sure what she was going to have on the day, but both her and Nick kind of hung in there, got past in the second half of the race, but were able to hold on to those podium
and
spots.
Both very happy with their performances today, even though they got third. So, in which they should be. Every athlete here should be. So, and we have already crowned multiple age group world champions and multiple other podium positions as well too. So, just shout out to all the age group competitors out there. Of course, not getting the precious live feed that the elites get. However, they are still DEKA cyborgs in their own. So.
And I can see there's the ruck division going on right now.
So
if you think DEKA Fit is hard enough, try doing it with an extra 20 pounds or so on your back with a backpack. I know you've done it before. I have not had the pleasure, but I can imagine that, it's painful.
Yeah, just a bit. Well, awesome. Well, Xander, we definitely got the elite female teams first out of the 3 elite teams that we'll be covering over the rest of this evening. So as you can see, coming into the first, we got Bridget Brown and Lexy Hazle. I will be real honest, I don't know if those two are competing. But Bethany McChesney and Heather White, the former world champions, they won last year and I believe set the world record in the process. They will be competing today, and it's hard to argue that they're not the favorites going into this. But as you can see as well, Marissa Pope, not listed on this screen, I'm sorry. However, she is teaming up with Tara Jackson. Now, that's a duo. If anyone's going to be competing with Bethany McChesney and Heather White, that would be two females to watch out for.
Yeah, you mentioned Bethany and Heather won the world championship here last year, a 29.05. Their seed time of 29.50. Second best seed, but maybe the best of athletes that we believe are competing here today. And yeah, it's interesting coming into these team races, sort of how, teams are formed. It's two athletes, but sort of the combination or skill sets. Are you going with two competitors that are kind of both all-arounders and can trade off the work? In the case of Bethany and Heather, Bethany, much faster athlete, has a running background.
Right.
Heather is very strong on the stations, and so they're able to kind of polarize that. With this team format, you have to do the first and last run together. Other than that, it's however you want to break it up.
Correct.
And so sometimes we see athletes run hard 250s and switch off during the run. In the case of someone like Kevin Gregory that we'll see later, he's going to take some of those runs off so he can really hammer the stations. And it's interesting because you can have podiums or races between teams that are taking vastly different approaches even within the same race.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kevin Gregory is obviously the exception that type of strategy works, where you can specialize in the strength aspect and then one can specialize in the running. But that doesn't work for everybody. Definitely not the fit. Now, when you get to the mile and the strong, which of course we'll cover on Saturday and Sunday, that I believe you do have to specialize in. You cannot be two of the same as far as like running and also with the stations. I just don't think it works as well. But as the fit, I do think you can complement each other very well. You can have two very strong runners and do very well, if not win, the world championship here at the DEKA Fit Arena.
Yeah.
I think it's just long enough to where you can get away with it.
I was going to say, I think with the mile, the runs probably aren't long enough for, any advantage you might have on the run or, whatever to play off it in that way. Whereas the fit, it is still close to 2 minutes, no matter how you split it up each of these runs. So it definitely changes things in that respect.
And there are teams that make exceptions for that. But, that's a rare 1%, and every sport has them, right? So
yeah, and it's like, some teams will switch off during the ergs. Some teams will, trade off on the bike even, and others don't. So we'll see how that plays out here in a few minutes as this women's race gets underway.
I'm excited. If you're new to a DEKA Fit, of course, watching this and watching teams is so fun because all output. It looks like Michelle Navarro there. Wonder who. Oh, Bridget Brown and Michelle Navarro. Okay, now. Oh, that's a team right there. You talk about two fast females. Right, so there's Bethany McChesney and Heather White. Okay, so it looks like maybe Bridget Brown and Michelle Navarro. We also have Ashley Lacombe and Christy Dutton, who I know personally over in Boulder, Texas. They very well can throw down a great time. Not the strongest runners, but they are fantastic with the stations. Ashley's a former CrossFit game athlete, and Christy is an all-around age group phenomenon here in the DEKA Fit. And then, of course, Marissa Pope and Tara Jackson, if they are in fact teaming up, I would personally put them as the favorite. I like that combo. Marissa Pope is an amazing team athlete. We saw what she did with I'm going to butcher his name, Keaton Billings, but I'm only saying that because that's an inside joke. Keaton Billings, however, they put on a clinic last year, and I think they podiumed every single race they did as a team. But Michelle Navarro and Bridget Brown, man, that is a fast team. That is a very fast team.
Absolutely. I think we've seen a number of the athletes that competed, obviously Michelle Navarro and Bridget Brown being two of them. Some of the athletes who did compete this morning are doubling back and some competing throughout the weekend as well. On the other hand, at least on the elite side, Bethany and Heather didn't compete individually in DEKA Fit. And so you have that balance as well, where some athletes are going to have an all-out 35-minute effort in their legs and their bodies. Other ones are going to be more fresh, and that'll be interesting because there's been some recovery time, but not a ton, as that elite women's race started about 3 hours ago.
Yeah, there are certain athletes. Oh, and then also, too, Karen Guitry and Amber Tate is a team to watch out for. Amber Tate, we know how she is on the box overs, the queen of the box overs, which I believe Marissa Pope wants to claim as well too. But Karen Guitry has been killing it right now in the high rock scene with her running, so that's going to be a fast team to look out for. But again, fresh legs, like you were just mentioning. This is another team with fresh legs. And again, exceptions. Some people run better when their legs are just a little bit compromised, almost as if they warmed up earlier today. Others, they just don't perform on a high level as much as they should, or that they're capable of if they had fresh legs. So that will be interesting to see if that plays out.
Yeah, we're going to look at the warm-up area here. We should be a few minutes away from getting started here for this women's team race.
And of course, we don't know any dark horses. I'm not too familiar with the other names on here, Xander, but I mean, there could be a team that their training has just been phenomenal, that maybe it's someone that trains together, of course, would be my guess. They can make a name for themselves maybe for a third place or second place position.
And I believe a lot of the European athletes that competed individually on the women's side are also racing, not with each other, but with other partners here. So that's good to see as well. Again, I guess if you're going to fly across the ocean for a race, you might as well make the most out of your weekend and compete in every available division.
Yeah, okay, Stephanie Hillman and Tanya possibly. Okay, wow. All right, so this female lineup is looking more and more supreme as they continue to warm up.
And Tanya, I believe, was either fifth or sixth in the individual, and Stephanie Hillman close behind her in the back half of that top 10.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be exciting stuff. For those who don't know the rule, there's Dave Claxton, the main referee. I wonder how many no-reps he's done today. You think he really no-repped anybody? I wonder if the rabbit can ask him that real quick, if you can hear him. But so a rule with the teams is you may qualify with an athlete. Say the athlete just couldn't make it. You are then allowed to find another athlete in that replacement as long as it meets the criteria that it needs to. However, if that athlete that you're replacing is competing still in the weekend, just decided they didn't want to do the race, then you cannot replace that athlete, unfortunately. And it's to avoid the people such as Kevin Gregory, who teams up with 20, 30 different people, and he qualifies them because, of course, they're just phenomenal, and so is he. To avoid him taking all the spots. And then if he decided to pick one person, say the 20th person he qualified with, replacing Kevin, that's just not something you can do, unfortunately. So I do like this rule change. I don't think that was a rule implied last year, but then again, we really didn't have too many issues, I don't think, with team-ups. So there are a lot of teams that qualified that are just not the same team that's racing today.
But all have at least one competitor who did, and presumably are trying to obviously fill the spot with someone else competing or someone else who is of that caliber, and you can't drop down into age group if you've qualified in the lead and competed in the lead as well.
Because it looks like we see Katie D'Ambrosia. Okay, so maybe it's Katie D'Ambrosia and Michelle Navarro. Oh man, all right, more elites signing up. I love it.
And we've got the final athlete briefing there again. Dave Claxton has always been involved in helping put on events up in Canada where he calls home, but within the last couple of months taking on a more official role with DEKA Fit, managing officiating. I think that's something that's been much needed and been a big benefit for the sport, both in terms of clarifying standards and of course having him on the ground to reinforce. You see here, the reverse lunges and the burpees are really two of the areas that there's been a big point of emphasis on, and I think that we've seen that pay off in terms of athletes are understanding what the standards are, and we've seen much better reps, especially the reverse lunges obviously being the first station, but even burpees at the end. That late in the race is when sometimes you can lose focus and not really have the rep quality that you need. But in the elite races, we definitely saw I think everyone kind of coming to full extension.
I think so,
and getting that done. So,
and I think it's necessary, definitely, if you want the sport to continue to grow, to have someone just go in there and say, this is exactly what it is. This is what it's going to be. There is no compromise on anything. And for a judge to just not be afraid to no-rep an athlete. Our sport, and this is most sports as well too, but our camaraderie here is unlike any other. And it seems like that in a running culture. Everyone is fine. You're not going to have someone throw a ram roller at you for no-repping you. You might, but chances of it happening is unlikely. So if you're a ref or you're a judge and you're just afraid of no-repping because of their status and maybe who they are, don't be, honestly, on a high-end level athlete, they actually appreciate that because it's holding them accountable, and they know that, and they get the feel that everyone else is being held accountable around them, which I think is, again, important for the growth of this sport. So it's good that Dave is stepping in as that head referee, telling everyone exactly what to look for. Don't leave it in the hand of the judges. Just do what you're supposed to do, and everything will be okay.
And you can see him demonstrating the burpees there and the full walkout at the top. And it's really, kind of the one mindset is, if you're an athlete, don't put the judge in a position to no rep you. I mean, if you're very clearly, sort of taking the time or putting forth the movement, if you're working beyond the gray area, then you're going to be fine and have nothing to worry about.
Exactly. Not everything's going to be perfect. I mean, you might have a slight bend in your elbow and stuff, but that can be something that could be debated later. But in the moment, if it looks like a full extension, we know exactly what doesn't and what applies and what doesn't. I mean, so I think most of these athletes are understanding that now. Yes, it is a little bit slower. It slows your time down just by fractions of seconds, but it's necessary. You have to have a standard in the sport. You just do.
And obviously, there are historical time standards, and that's part of it. But we heard from Lauren Weeks herself, who set the fastest time ever today. First, it's a race. And so, yes, maybe the times are going to be a tiny bit slower overall, but it's a race. And if everyone's meeting the same standard, then the race itself is just as competitive.
Well, I'm an idiot, and Xander, I actually just was looking at the wrong list. That is the mile for tomorrow that I was looking at. Thank goodness I got Bethany McChesney and Heather White right. The female teams, it is not Marissa Pope and Tara Jackson. That's tomorrow night. Sorry, folks. I definitely have the wrong list. Now I'm getting it right. Okay, Julie Best and Michelle Navarro was the team going into it, but it looks like maybe Michelle is replacing Julie. Then we have Amber Tate and Karen Guitry as one of the top seeds going in as well. That's why, of course, I didn't see Ashley Lacombe or Christy. It makes total sense now. And then Bridget Brown and Lexy Hazle still. Hazle. So my apologies about that if I'm name-dropping people that I shouldn't be at the moment. But it does look like Stephanie Hillman and Tanya are teaming up, and I don't know if that was a team before. It was. So the good thing is it doesn't seem like too many teams are replacing their partner. So it does look like Michelle Navarro is teaming up with Katie D'Ambrosia, though, instead of who she qualified with, which was Julie Best.
Yeah, we saw them, I think, one of the races that we did earlier this year.
That's right.
They both had strong individual performances and then came back and got it done on the team side as well.
That's right. Yep, I do remember now. So Katie is a great replacement because Katie is a runner.
And that's going to be interesting because, you have another team you see there in the front with the half American, half Canadian tops with Bethany McChesney and Heather White, and they definitely have, one of the more polarized teams in terms of skill set.
Yes.
And you've got some others in this field that might be a bit more balanced, then it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. And then to the far left, Bridget Brown and Lexy right there. I mean, they're coming in as the top seed right now. So exciting to see what they put out.
And if I remember we did the race when Bridget and I think Lexy did an individual, and I think it was her first one. And I think she's also someone that comes with a bit more of a running background. And Bridget, obviously, a lot of experience overall in this event format. So, teams is a good opportunity for maybe athletes who don't have quite as much experience or do have, more of that endurance running background to start with. They can get their feet wet in this space, team up with somebody that's stronger on the stations, and find themselves on a world podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this is going to be a tough podium. Speaking of which, this is going to be tough. I think all right, I'm going to say Bridget and Lexy take the dub. I say Karen Guitry and Amber Tate get second. And I want to say Bethany and Heather get third. That's I don't know if I like my answers, but
I heard you struggling with all those. I think obviously Bridget and Lexy do have the fastest seat time. I'm going to have to stick with the champs until they're no longer the champs. So I'll say Bethany and Heather will take it. But, I could see Bridget and Lexy coming in second and then Karen and Amber. I mean, this is going to be a phenomenal race. Katie and Michelle, they probably haven't raced together before, so they might be talking strategy right now. Whereas some of these other athletes, Bethany and Heather, there's no question about how they're going to approach this race. They've done it, half a dozen times
We
probably
know
before
Heather's going to
together.
do all the runs, and Bethany's going to crush that bike, right? Could you imagine if they came in with that strategy instead? That would be, and they won. Yeah. That would be. You talk about praising them to being very diverse. And it looks like for the international level back there, we got Munster, who competed earlier today as well too, which I think she got 6th or 7th maybe in that range. And then she's teaming up with Raquel Imes. But excited to see, of course, international out there doing the elite females.
Absolutely. We are just seconds away, about to get this going. And here we go. We are underway in our elite female team DEKA Fit World Championship. And the interesting thing here, Luke, is unlike the individual where you can go out at your own pace, you've got to pace this with your partner, because you're not just, if you're a stronger runner, you're not just going to drop your teammate.
Yeah, you got to hold on for the most part. The first run is usually very fast. It's all about battling the position of who wants to go in on that first set of mat for the lunges. You definitely want to be right there in the corners. After that, it's pretty much usually one teammate does all 30. I'd be very surprised if any of these ladies split their repetitions. I don't think that's going to occur. But if they do, that's just a strategy, getting ready for them to not blow up their legs. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they split the rower when they go into it. But after that, of course, like you mentioned earlier, after the first run, I mean, they split it up however they want to until the final run together, and then they can split up the burpees however they want.
And it's kind of an interesting dynamic, because if you're a team that's going to have someone doing almost all the running, they're probably a stronger runner, in which case they're running well below their capacity right now, whereas the strength-based athlete is probably much closer to their red line right from the beginning.
Right.
On the other hand, they're going to have a rest every time the other person goes out and runs later on.
Which is why you can probably see Heather and Bethany kind of towards the back here right now, because obviously the higher output of what a sprint on a 500-meter looks like for like Amber and Catherine and Bridget and Lexy, opposed to Heather and Bethany. But Heather and Bethany know the second they start into the stations and get their groove and stuff, Heather will make up that gap on the stations, on the other ladies.
So Bridget and Lexy in first, Catherine and Amber right behind them, and then 3 or 4 other teams all coming in together. And yeah, you can see Heather White immediately pick up those lunges and start hammering them out.
I'll be interested to see how Katie DeBrosia and Michelle Navarro do together. It's hard to just kind of wing it and strategize as you're going, but the race is just long enough, I think, from a team aspect opposed to the strong and the mile, that you can make kind of a last-minute decision and really conversate, because you get about 30 seconds per run, maybe for 250 meters. Maybe you tell someone, hey, do another run. When in a mile and a strong, I mean, it has to be split-second decisions. I mean, you got to know to step to the left for the skier transition and all this. But on a fit, you can kind of communicate. But it'll be interesting to see who does what, because I don't think either athlete is necessarily strong on the stations, but they are both fantastic runners, though.
And we could see they were really, of these top group of teams, they were the only ones that switched off the lunges. They switched about halfway through. On the other hand, you had Catherine Guidry doing the entire lunge. You had the same thing with, I believe, Lexy, and then Heather, of course, in her team. So, yeah, we'll see right now. Bridget Brown.
See how fast they did their lunges, though. 29 seconds. Wow. And, I mean, now Bridget, of course, running 250, I'm assuming, passing it off.
So this will be interesting. It's that scenario that we were talking about earlier, where we've got one team that, at least to start with, is going to be going 250. On the other hand, with Bethany and Heather, you'd imagine that Bethany's going to be doing the vast majority of the running here.
Yeah. And I think Heather last year, too, if I remember correctly, maybe she chimed in on a couple runs, or maybe that was the co-ed race in Austin, or the female team as well, too. There was a time where she did run a little bit as well. But we know what she's capable of on that assault bike. So if she's anywhere, if that team is anywhere in range of the other females, they better watch out, because Heather will absolutely destroy that assault bike. If that team is anywhere in range of the other females, they better watch out, because Heather will absolutely destroy that assault bike. So Karen Dutry is in second. And I believe that's the international team right there, because I believe they're matching.
You see athletes there on the rower. They can get in position, but they can't start until they get tagged in. So you saw Catherine finish up her run and tag in Amber. Bridget was already on the rower, and now Bethany tags in Heather. And this is where, one of the stations in which there's probably a good opportunity for Heather White to make up a lot of time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the majority of females split the rower. Usually you go 250, 250, mainly because the transition of a rower takes a lot longer than transition maybe on a bike or a skier. So one transition is usually ideal. And usually about, I don't know, if you're going all out on a 500, when you get to about that 250, 300 meter mark, I mean, your legs are pretty blown up at that point. So if you have someone going all out on the 500, chances are the next athlete is running the full 500 meters afterwards as well.
Yeah, you see Bridget and Lexy switched off right there.
Chances are the next athlete is running the full 500. It's another team to watch out for, though, Stephanie and Tanya.
Switched off right there. And that's another team where presumably they haven't competed. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I don't think they would have competed together before, given Tanya coming over from Luxembourg. And so it's another, you've got.
Or when they did, I'm not sure which race, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you lose too much. So the thing is, I am all for splitting the rower, even during a DEKA Strong event. I think what you save in your leg strength in comparison to maybe that 3 seconds you lose the transition makes a world of a difference. It really does. We saw Megita and Eric Williams do that first, and they won all their events together because of it. They even did it in the Strong. I think they're the first set of males to ever do that, where they split the assault bike, but they won, and it showed. And to this day, I think they still hold close to most world records for that. So
it's one of the longest stations, and so even if it takes 3 seconds for you to switch, the amount faster you're able to row because you're only doing 250 makes up for it. Whereas something like the lunges or box step overs, like there's no point in switching.
Right.
There's not as much of a point in switching because it only takes 25 seconds anyway.
Correct. Yeah, it looks like Bridget and Lexy are asserting their dominance very early in this race. But with teams, anything can happen. It can literally go all the way to the burpees. So I'm not calling it anytime soon yet for them, but they are definitely dominating right now.
And there it seems like going to stick to that 250 strategy where Bridget then starts most of the stations. Lexy finishing the stations, then recovering on that first run and ready to hit a hard 250. So you see Heather White making her way into the box step overs now. All the other team athletes as well.
Which I think taking second now because of her row time. 101, that doesn't seem right.
I don't think those have fully
Unless
processed
she really
yet.
went 101. I mean, that's wow. Wow, Heather. Nah.
But that just goes to show you there, a 149 for Bridget and Lexy. That's with transition time, both coming in, but then also switching. And so it just shows you how much faster you're able to row when you're only going 250 versus a 500.
Correct, absolutely. And maintaining your 250 splits afterwards, too, in the run. So Bridget should be doing all the 20 box overs, potentially, and I would assume Lexy will go back out on that run. This is the one transition, this and the assault bike, if you have someone, a male that could just absolutely destroy the bike like Kevin, that rest time is so short. So when you go all out on a 250, you're resting only 20 to 30 seconds, then you're right back out on there against going all out on a 250. It's one of the stations that sucks when that's the case.
Bridget Brown back out on the run. This team continues to lead this race. They were the top seed coming in just ahead of Heather White and Bethany McChesney.
Yeah, I think they split the box overs because Bridget's on the run. So unless the strategy was just do all the box over, which honestly, I mean, this station isn't too taxing on the legs. I mean, if now doing a fit individually, absolutely, because you just got off the rower and then into a run. But as a team aspect, your legs shouldn't feel too blown up at this point. And if they do feel blown up, you're in for some pain later.
Especially given they are going to be splitting the runs. And so Bridget knows she's got, close to a minute to rest after this anyway.
Right. So not too much of a shakeup there.
Yeah, the zone time for Bethany and Heather is not showing up there. I think they're most definitely higher up than 9th at this point.
Sure.
But the Spanish team is making some noise, putting themselves in a good position to fight for the podium for sure.
Right there, I definitely think they're quick quick on their runs for sure too. Which I think even in teams aspect, definitely on a fit, it still comes down to the running, just like it does individually. Because I think it's just the longest thing where you can make up the most time. I think the stations only get so fast at some point. The machines, yeah, absolutely, but like the box overs, you can only get so fast. I mean, no one's going to break a 10-second barrier mark on that or mark, excuse me. But on the running, I mean, you can easily run let's say 40 seconds is your usual 250. You can, I mean, easily train yourself to try to run 30 seconds, right? Here comes Lexy to Bridget.
Yeah, especially in this team format. I mean, really, the run is going to be longer than any individual station except for the machines and then the sled push and pull and possibly the bike. So, yeah, if you think about, where is the most opportunity to make up time without compromising the rest of your race, it is the run, because if you're able to build your fitness to run a 4 or 5 second faster 250 or even just 2 or 3 seconds, that adds up over the course of a race.
Yeah, absolutely. So the international ladies are in second place right now. The ones all in pink. I say international. I'm not sure if the other lady, of course, is international at all, but I believe Munsta is the other one. But Michelle Navarro and Katie D'Ambrosia is in third place right now.
Bridget is done. Lexy is back out on the run. This team continues to lead, coming up on the halfway mark of this race.
Yeah, they're pretty packed up right now. I mean, only one team really is going with it. The rest is. Oh wow, Heather crushed those setups. Wow, she dominated it.
2, 3, 4, and 5,
surprise.
all out within about 5 seconds of each other. But thanks to Heather dominating that station, you see there a 38-second split.
Huge.
And now Bethany McChesney can open up on the run, both to try and open up a gap on third place, but also try and bring Bridget and Lexy back into reach a little bit.
Yeah, I think Heather, no doubt, can definitely match Lexy and Bridget on the stations, even when they split it, just her herself. I just don't think the runs are going to match the speed between Bridget and Lexy, unfortunately, which I think is going to be the difference maker between those two teams, if Heather and Bethany, of course, get second. But right now, they got the ladies in pink. I believe that's Munson who just handed it off to Raquel. Oh, this is fun. Tanya and Stephanie not too far behind. I think this is Stephanie coming around the corner. Yeah, so this is still a team to look out for right here. You're talking about maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah, they're certainly capable of clawing their way back into this. And, I think that what makes the team format so exciting is that, by this point of the individual race, there's a pretty good idea of how it's going to play out. I mean, we saw that even on the men's side that was a little bit closer early. Kind of the top 3 or 4 had separated. And, yes, Bridget clearly in front, or Bridget and Lexy are clearly in front here, but there's so much time left and so many different skill sets. We know what Heather's preparing to do on the bike compared to, what these other athletes are capable of. How does that change the dynamic? And, right now we've got a team out in front, but there's still a long way to go, especially.
Wow, they're making. Oh, wow, Michelle right there. I think this is a station where Michelle and Katie might fall back just slightly. But maybe not, though. The strategy with the skier, there's multiple strategies you could do. You go 250, 250, just like the row, which is what I would not recommend by any means. You can go 125, 125, do that with 4 times, or you can go 100, 100, 100, 100 to maintain a certain pace. But I do think with a little bit more transitions, it is worth trying to make your skier repetition shorter, or your intervals, excuse me, to maintain that higher output as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The one advantage that Bridget and Lexy have is they have first choice of the machines to use or the spots in the zones, and they're obviously, they have the shortest transition time because they're right by the exit, which, in a race that you're transitioning 20 times, little things like that can make up a difference.
They can. Yeah, so as you can see, the ladies are pulling down about a 148, 150, something like that. I'll be honest, I think Heather can just do that by herself. So this is going to be interesting to see. The ladies in pink are killing it right now. I believe that's Munster right now on the skier. There's Heather on the other side. All right, so Bridget's about to run. Still got a lead. Let's see if the other ladies have made a little bit of a gap.
It was about 14-11 when Bridget left the zone. So at least a 10-second edge right now.
All right, so still in second place. All right, so Heather crushed the skier, guys, to no surprise. And there goes Michelle Navarro. So Michelle and Katie definitely lost some time on that station. To be expected, just like the bike will probably be the same scenario. But, man, can they make it up for definitely the their run splits, though.
Yeah, we don't have the full splits up here. I think this is about a halfway mark, and you can see that those 3, 4, 5 all very similar. So splitting it up, and some a bit stronger on the stations, more experience racing together versus others. We have a couple of at least one fill-in situation here, but so far, Katie and Michelle, even if it is their first time racing together, they're holding their own, sticking in this.
Absolutely, very much alive in it. And Heather going on a run, I like it. Here goes Amber Tate. Yeah, this is still very cool. Oh, Stephanie's running, I believe, the entire 500 meters, which I think is just too costly. It's very exclusive club of people who are capable of doing that and stuff. But, again, they clearly have a strategy, so they got to stick to it. Or maybe a lot of times, too, you just got to throw an audible in there going, hey, I need you to take this because I'm just blowing up right now. And if they were to run or do an extra work in the station, then their whole rest of the race could be compromised. But I think as far as a podium threat and stuff, you got to be a team that splits it.
Light work on the farmer's carry there for Bridget Brown as she and Lexy Hazle continue to lead this race. Now on run number 7.
They're crushing it right now. They look strong. Let's see how their bike split is. I bet you they split it as well. Maybe 12 and a half, or maybe one does 10, 20. Bridget obviously is very well known in the DEKA Fit arena. Lexy really only know the name because being in teams with Bridget. But then again, she might be the stronger biker.
So Moonstone Raquel out in second. Here Michelle Navarro finishing up the farmer's carry.
And there's Tanya. Wow, right there.
Third place.
Okay, so Stephanie running that and Tanya right there. They made a move.
Yeah, 4th, 5th, and 6th, all very close together. You see Bethany McChesney out first, then Stephanie Hillman, and then Amber Tate.
Because we saw how far behind they were before going into the ski erg. They've caught up. Yeah, this is going to be a mix-up podium. It's going to come down to the burpees.
Yeah, things are definitely going to change after the bike, but how they come out of the bike is not necessarily the finishing order. So there's still a lot of race to go in podium positions on the line for sure.
Go. All right, here comes Bridget into. All right, let's see, 18:05. So they definitely got to move. They got to have at least 12, 15 cal advantage before Heather gets on her bike. It's not too much of a difference on the farmer carry. Farmer carry is one of those things where you're not going to transition. So I don't think the other competitor is allowed to follow. I think just due to congestion, which is smart and safe. So it's you're either all in or you just can't do it, right?
And it's one of those stations you can only, sort of walk fastly so fast.
Right,
you're not going to be able to make up a ton of time really in that zone too much. So there's the switch. Be interesting to see if they switch again. I don't think so because Lexy is now getting ready to run.
Yeah, it appears maybe 12 and a half. It seems like they're doing half and half, which I think is smart. And they're crushing it. They might be done with the bike by before. Oh, Tanya just tagged Stephanie, I believe. Okay, so there we go. International leaders are going.
And so now Bethany tags Heather. So Heather White trying to make a move here. This is an opportunity for this team to make up some ground as they came in fourth or fifth. But Bridget has finished her portion. Lexy Hazle back out on the run and pretty early on into Heather's bike, and also with Munson and Raquel having a lot of way to go as well. So that is huge because it kind of lets Lexy open up on this run, really just putting ground in between her and whoever comes out of this bike in second place.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a very important run and very important split right now, knowing that a bunch of ladies are right behind you. So you cannot let your foot off the pedal at all right now. Not in a team race. Man, but they have definitely opened up their lead. Wow. All right, yeah, Heather. Wow.
So what we thought might happen happened as the Heather White Bethany McChesney team makes a move on the bike.
Wow.
Thanks to Heather's work. Now huge. Bethany out on the run. Look at that difference.
14 seconds faster than a split time. Wow. Knowing Bethany can just run a 500 meters pretty quick as well, too. So they might lose a little time without splitting maybe the 250, but what maybe they gain possibly on the bike makes it worth it.
And that's only 8 seconds slower than Grayson Kilgore's split when he was making his move in the men's individual race. Right. That shows you the output that Heather White can do and make a move, even though they really didn't make up that much time on the race leaders, speaking to what Lexy and Bridget, by splitting up almost all the work, have been able to do so far.
Wow. Great move from Heather. That was awesome. So Bethany now knows it's on her. There she goes, as she just laps around one time, that this has to be a fast split for her as well, too, because this is where they make a move as a team. Heather, of course, waiting for that 40-pound over the wall, which is going to be nothing for her.
It looked like about maybe an 8-second lead for Bethany on that run versus Raquel and Munster. So that, I think, is going to be interesting because they've been running with Bethany pretty much, all race. And so it's not like they haven't been able to – Bethany and Heather haven't been able to make moves on both the run and the stations. And so, has Bethany been saving something in the tank for these last 2 or 3 runs? That's the question. Or, it's when you have to bring in the other person on that last run who's got the most left to give, and we'll see.
Yeah. Man, we got to come up with a nickname for Heather. She is the female version of Bubbles on that bike. So, I don't know if she wants a rodeo clown nickname by any means, but we got to come up with something. They're showing some love to Raquel. They're right there. They're doing the over the walls, actually. So they passed. No, Heather's right there. Okay, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked like Bethany had a pretty solid edge. It's hard to tell. It's hard to know where they're at with their reps, but we will see Bethany as she gets ready to run. How much of a gap, if she has one.
It's Stephanie and Tanya, and then of course Michelle Navarro and Katie are still right there. They're actually impressing me right now, keeping up on the stations. I would hope to think that their run splits are probably just faster than most other female teams. That's what's keeping them alive. But they're holding their own right now, and it's awesome to watch.
Especially after the bike, because we mentioned they don't necessarily have someone who's going to be as strong on the bike as some other teams, but to withstand that, still keep yourself in a solid position. Yep. And then maybe you've got now, a couple of runs left to try and do some work.
All right, so it seems like Munson and Raquel moved back into second place. But Bridget and Lexy have completely lapped them. It is now their race to lose. I do not see them letting that up by any means. Now, I don't know if a sled is Achilles' heel for both of them or not, but I don't think it is.
And remember, right now, the team in second place is a lap down. So even if this athlete passes Bridget, they will not be in the lead. There's another look at the air bike.
Man,
and again,
look at that difference. Wow.
But then also the difference between what Bridget and Lexy have done versus all the other teams. So they split the work. Most of the other teams did as well, and they still were 15 seconds ahead of most teams. And you see there the impact of for Raquel and Munster to split the work on the dead ball overs. They were able to make up 10 seconds, whereas Heather White was doing all of it. And so, that's going to be back and forth. I don't think that's over in any capacity, but two different styles right now battling for podium
Yep.
position.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to have their opinion of what strategy is the best, of course. When it comes down to it, you just have to perform at what you're good at, and your teammates don't have to do the same for you. And then if you just have a good mixture of both, you come out victorious. Which Lexy and Bridget clearly have a connection with each other because they look like they've been teammates forever, which maybe they have. Maybe they grew up together. Who knows? So, but they're killing it right now.
And you see with them trading off on these push and pulls, so you get, a 20-second rest or whatever it ends up being in between, and that's going to pay off. So Heather is waiting for Bethany McChesney to come in, and there we go. So now Heather White's going to try and make up, and look at her move that sled.
Wow.
So
running with it.
I say going to make up. She has made up the gap on the second-place team. I mean, this is an absolute tour de force right now for Heather White. They're still several lengths down compared to Bridget and Lexy, but this may be where they solidify second place if Heather can keep up this level of effort all the way through.
Now, I don't know if she does all 5. It would be smart for Bethany maybe to do the third push and pull, and then Heather finishing out with a 2, which let's see if that's the strategy they use, because Heather will just blow up her legs completely. Yep,
they Bethany switched right there. You called it.
Yep. Man, but they made the ground. There goes Bridget and Lexy going on their last run to secure the win. Congrats to them. Bethany not moving too bad, actually. I mean, because she's got pretty much fresh legs, I guess, for the sled. I wonder how many more Munster and Raquel have. I wonder if they're on the last one.
I think this is 4 for both of these teams.
Is it? Oh, so Heather and Bethany passed. Wow.
Yeah,
that's great.
Because Heather made up the ground almost immediately and then kind of opened it up. Seemed like Bethany was able to hold it. And I guess, to your point, if you're only doing 1 push and pull, or maybe 2, it looks like now Bethany's doing the last one to give Heather a rest for the run.
Right, sure.
But still, splitting up the work in that way, they can have a little bit higher output. And, right now, they're pretty close to a full length ahead coming out of this zone. So good strategy deployed there by Bethany McChesney and Heather White. Maybe the win is out of reach, but this could have been the move that gets them second place.
Absolutely.
As they go back out on this last run.
Yeah, you can tell they work well together. They complement each other. All right, there goes Munster and Raquel.
So can they run down Heather White and Bethany McChesney prior to the burpees? That is the question.
That is. I would say in a team aspect, you would need maybe a 4 burpee lead. Oh, there goes Katie and Michelle. Oh, now the question is, can they chase down Munster and Raquel? Let's see what type of wheels they got on this last 500-meter split. 10 seconds difference can make a huge difference going into the burpees.
There's Stephanie Hillman and Tanya Thies, but they're, of course, a lap down. So here we go. Bridget Brown and Lexy Hazle putting the finishing touches on what is going to be an unbelievable time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I would think sub 28:30, which we're checking to see if that's maybe on world record approach. Yeah, they got a huge lead at the moment. Bridget is absolutely killing these burpees. I guess maybe she's just doing as many as she can, or maybe they're switching off every 10. I think second place. Still nowhere to be found.
Lexy Hazle finishing up these last few reps.
Whoa.
Stephanie Hillman and Tanya
Where did they
Thies.
just come from?
Wow.
Where is did we miss Heather and oh no, there they are. Wow. Tanya and Stephanie. We didn't even see them. Wow. We saw them running, but all right, so Bridget Brown and Lexy Hazle, your 2024 Women Elite Champions. Wow. Okay, this is something else. This is this whole time we had our eyes on these two pair of ladies right here. Tanya and Stephanie, I guess they were just in the back corner of the sleds, and we didn't see them.
Yeah, they snuck up into this position.
They did. Wow.
And now Bethany hands off to Heather White.
They clearly destroyed that run. I mean, oh, here we go. Those are clean burpees, too, from Heather. Oh, man. Now, I will say Heather and Munson and them, they do have the advantage being closer to the finish line. So you better hope Stephanie and Tanya have at least a 2-rep lead, which they do. Second place. Wow.
And Heather White and Bethany McChesney across in third.
Whoa.
That was incredible.
That's what I get for not paying attention. Wow, I was so thrown off from that. But
it can be hard to tell sometimes just based on the camera positions. If someone comes into the other side of the zone, you don't necessarily see exactly how fast they're working.
Man, well, congrats to Stephanie and Tanya for that. Wow. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right.
So Lexy Hazle and Bridget Brown, your women's team world champion.
It looks like Michelle and Katie got 4th place.
I think they would be 5th because I think the Spanish team, Raquel Munsta, came across in 4th.
You're right.
So solid showing again, with the international teams coming in, or European teams, I should say.
Great.
Once again, a top 5 position. We've had now at least one European, I believe, in the top 5 or 6 in every race to this point, which is great to see.
Yeah, they're in the mix, right? They're not anybody where you see sometimes and they're like, well, they compete with each other. That's just false time stuff. No, they're legit. So, again, as the sport grows and stuff, maybe we see more Spaniards and international competitors coming over to America to do a DEKA fit, and vice versa. Hopefully, we can get some Americans over in Europe competing as well too. So that way we can blend a little bit more and actually see where the true competition is and just see how each other works on that, right? So we got the rest of the ladies finishing up.
And some of these other teams we didn't see a lot of just based on how the race unfolded, but strong showings for all of these teams. They put the finishing touches on their World Championship appearance.
And we got Katie Howell and Alex Shabo? I would assume Shabo. That's an awesome last name. These teams are throwing down fast times too, though.
Yeah, about 32 minutes to this point.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, last year's World Championship, the 7th place team was 31:58.
Wow.
So these teams a little bit further down with very similar times.
Yeah.
So definitely, the level overall is raising. And yeah, it looks like they were back in the pack compared to our race winners that are going, right around 29 or sub 29 in the case of Bridget and Lexy. But strong times here as these teams all come across with times that would have been top 8 positions in last year's championship race.
Wow. Yeah, the level of competition is rising. I like it. Well, congrats to Bridget and Lexy. I'm interested to know what type of maybe connection they have, or if they're just two random people who showed up at a DEKA fit and was like, hey, you want to suffer a little bit more today by doing the team? Let's do it. Okay. I'll be honest, that was a no rep there at the end. If we finally caught one, just the judge didn't call it. And once it's done, it's done. You can't go back and argue it. You can't do that to a competitor. Definitely if it's a position or a podium and stuff, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe you give some grace for maybe the last place team and stuff. But that right there, folks, was a no rep. But again, you're fatigued at the end. The competitor is not overthinking it. It's the last one. And the thought is too on the burpees. The last thing is setting it down. The last thing you want to do is set it down. So when you have it above your head, you're going to. So you want it as close to the ground as possible. The last thing I'm sorry. The last thing is not putting on the ground. The last thing you want to do is full extension.
I couldn't keep up with you either. Horrible. You guys are so fast. Congratulations.
Thank you. Our poor rabbits already burned out from keeping up with the individuals, and now they got to keep up with the teams.
Now they got to run even harder. Yeah.
It hurts. It definitely hurts.
I think we're about to have the standings here up on the screen. You see there Bridget Brown and Lexy Hazle,
Wow.
18:09. How about that running?
Look at that 5K
From
split.
Stephanie Hillman and Tanya Dees.
Wow.
17:32. And Bethany McChesney and Heather White kind of have played out the way that we thought, where they might be a little bit behind on the runs just because Heather doing two of them made up ground on their stations, but it wasn't enough to certainly maintain their world championship. They did, though, stay on the podium. But, again, tight groupings. All three races now we've seen the individual winner or team winner with a pretty significant gap, but lots of close action, from 2 to 6 all the way down. In this case, 15 seconds separate 2 through 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can see where the run splits made a difference to make podium, but obviously the station work, Bridget and Katie just had it, or excuse me, Lexy, they had it together, right? So clearly all their split work worked out for them, and they got to secure the victory with it, even though they ran a almost 40 seconds slower 5K time. Here we got some replays of the showdown that we just witnessed. I don't remember the female team last year being this competitive. So this was the fact that our world champs had to battle for third speaks volumes. It's no longer cakewalks for a lot of athletes anymore. Not that it was last year, but it's just that's not the case anymore. As you grow as a sport and stuff, if you don't bring your A game, you're not going to become victorious. So. You want me to? You do, yeah. And then here's the 2 sheets as well, too. Okay. We're finishing up the replays, of course, of the ladies' race. See Bridget finishing strong with her run. And Heather and Bethany right there before Heather made an amazing move on the assault bike. Oh, okay. All right, I have next to me Bridget and Lexy, your 2024 Elite Female DEKA Fit Team Champions. Welcome to the show, of course. Congratulations on y'all's win.
Thank you.
Okay, I have to ask, do we have some sort of past together? Is this a former team, or was it a random DEKA Fit hookup where you're like, hey, you be my teammate for today, y'all qualified, and you're like, you know what, we're going to do Worlds together. Is there a history between the two, or?
No, we recently just started working out together. I'd seen that we're both from Tampa, or living in Tampa.
Okay, at least that helps.
I had seen last year or early this year that she'd been doing these events, so I reached out to her and we started training together, and then we just signed up for one. So.
Perfect, awesome. And what was the race that y'all qualified in together?
We did Ocala, DEKA Fit.
Okay, so just this past September then. Okay,
and
perfect.
then about a couple weeks prior to that, we did the DEKA Mile, and we did qualify for that, but we weren't able to race on Saturday. So.
Oh, how come?
I got
life.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I didn't know if it was anything that specialized for DEKA or for whatever reason.
No.
So okay, cool. Well, walk me through the race. How did it feel? Did y'all do exactly the game plan going into it, or did y'all have to call any audibles during? Was there a time where you're like, hey, Lexy, do this, or Bridget, hey, go, I need you to take this over because of fatigue? Walk me through it. Did everything go according to plan?
Pretty much, I think, until the end. I think I was going to start burpees and she was going to finish, but I was like, can you start burpees? So she did. But other than that, I think it was exactly how we planned it out.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, we went in we had a rough draft, and we just said that, if any time during the race we need to call an audible, we just said,
Yep, and I think that's what's important during teams, right, to have that just in case if it needs to be. But obviously going in with a game plan is pretty important, which it seemed like y'all split the majority of everything. Of course, obviously the last run, the first run. Other than that, I mean, did one of y'all do the boxes completely, or
I did all the
Okay.
boxes and all the sit-ups, but she's
Okay.
a stronger on the bike, so she took
And
more
she
cows.
did all the farmer's carry.
Okay. Well, yeah. Oh, and the farmer carry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't transition, I think, in that
But
one. So
that bike is a beast, and she can handle it a
Awesome.
little better than me. So
yeah, because y'all were pretty much done with the bike by the time most women were really starting, which I think solidified y'all's win for the most part after that.
yeah.
It didn't seem like anything was slowing y'all down at that point. But that's good that y'all went in, obviously, with the game plan. I'm glad it
Yeah.
all worked out, other than finishing with the burpees, which I think at that point, though, it wouldn't have mattered. Now, if there was another team that went in the same time as you, would you have still called the same thing, or would you have just stuck to the strategy beforehand?
After the sleds, my legs, on that second run, I was
Okay.
like, yeah. So I probably would have still. She's so fast
Yeah.
on the burpees, so she
Yeah.
probably could have done all 20.
Awesome. Well, Bridget, this is your second race of the day.
Yeah.
How did you feel during the elite females race?
It was rough, but
Yeah.
it always is. You know,
I
that race and even this race. I mean, you're pretty much redlining the whole time.
Sure.
So
Yep.
it was rough, but we got it done, and I was really excited about this race because wanted to race with Lexy and thought we had a good shot at it. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good day.
No, it seems like your fitness is really taken back off to where it was in prime Bridget that we saw, 2022 time frame,
Right,
2023. So it seems like you're getting that speed down because in High Rocks you ran a phenomenal time last weekend as well. So it's good to see you back out in the sport and obviously performing on a high level
For
as well
sure.
too.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Lexy, do you have a background on anything as well? Because is this the only races you've done? The September race
I
with
did
Bridget?
my
and then-
first High Rocks this year, but
Okay.
other than that, yeah,
And what's your background?
college soccer.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Yeah.
there's running then.
Running.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
So that explains the wheels then. So
Soccer girls can see each other.
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
soccer
she
background.
did.
That's right. I can see the connection. See, y'all are best friends now. So, well, is there any other future plans as far as maybe going on into it individually next year, or maybe just stick with the partner aspect?
I don't know. I had nothing on my radar after this, so we'll see. I don't know if she's
Okay.
thinking of anything, but
She
I think-
she crushed her first DEKA fit. She came to Ocala too,
Mhm.
and we both did the DEKA fit.
Uh-huh.
She almost, I think she got a roll down, but didn't.
Oh, so
sign
okay.
up.
So you did do individual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
last
I
time.
did,
Okay.
yeah.
we were here,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And had a really good time. I don't know what it was, but she did awesome. And then we did
Yeah.
the teams together.
it's
Awesome.
so different. I do enjoy the doubles a lot more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I always found myself as a better teammate opposed to just running individual.
fun.
It's
It's so
something
fun.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brings me back the baton, everything to like high
Yeah.
school
For
track.
sure, for sure. And it sucks a little bit more. You
Yeah.
suffer just a little bit more because you
You
were
do.
definitely,
It's a
like you said,
different race, yeah.
redlining the entire race,
Yeah.
but totally worth it and obviously very rewarding because y'all won a world championship together. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
now, Bridget, is this your first world title in any capacity? Like,
I got third at Worlds my first time.
yeah, so you got
individual.
third. I meant as far as just a
championship.
win. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
I
your
think-
first
I think
one?
so.
Okay,
Yeah.
congratulations. I think well deserved, honestly, because you're a very well-known sport or well-known face in the sport.
Appreciate
And
it.
of course, I see your mom at every DEKA roadshow that I do because she lives in Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
She
So
does.
she always comes out and she always goes, "Have you seen what my daughter's
Oh,
done recently?"
yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That's
I
my
love
mom.
your mom. So,
She's on a poster over there.
Yeah.
oh, is she really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
Is
like,
she here?
She's not here.
Oh,
No, but
okay.
I've already talked to her like 3 times.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Well, she's a huge supporter of you, of course. So,
She's awesome.
well, awesome, ladies. I mean,
Thank
other
you.
than that, I mean, will we see y'all next year? Is there a potential teaming up? I mean, y'all are the
Probably.
team to beat.
Maybe her
so-
daughter too.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I know.
exciting.
I know. She just turned. She missed the cutoff, but she'll definitely want to jump into a DEKA. So hopefully,
As far
yeah,
as
I'm sure.
like turning 14 or
She don't you have to be 10?
oh
11?
okay, so you meant kid race.
Yeah.
I thought you meant as a teammate.
Well,
I'm
we
sorry.
did. We did
Yeah.
team up last time, but it was it didn't count for anything. But
Oh,
my,
okay.
my daughter and I. But
Yeah.
but no, I hope Lexy and I can continue this. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Well, absolutely. Well, now being the world champs, I feel like you
Yeah.
have to make a return, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
awesome.
we'll see.
Let other people earn it. They got to beat the champs to be the champs, right?
It's nice when it's kind of local. Didn't
Yeah.
take us long to get here.
Well,
so
that's
yeah.
also
Yeah.
a huge advantage. I feel like were y'all able to sleep in and just drive the morning of? I mean,
Yeah, we left this morning.
Yeah, we
See, that's
dropped
awesome.
the kids off at school and then just came here.
Hometown winning it couldn't be any better. So awesome. Well, Lexy, Bridget, congratulations on winning the
Appreciate it.
world
Thank you.
title. Absolutely. Thank you for joining me on
Thank
this.
you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Of course. All right. So
So-
that was good. they're not childhood friends, but they work out together.
There
So
you go.
I had to know.
Makes sense. Yeah, I
It
think
does.
I remember when Lexy did. I think her first individual was a race that Bridget had also competed in. So,
That's what she mentioned. Yep.
yeah, for sure. So
Perfect.
3 races, 3 solid, exciting World Championship performances. We'll be back in a little over an hour or so for the co-ed
Yeah.
elite
Ooh.
teams, and then men coming up later tonight. So we're just
Bubbles
getting started.
first return. Bubbles.
The
Oh,
first
man.
appearance of Kevin Gregory
Oh,
and
get
his
ready,
specialty.
folks.
So appointment television for about 15 seconds, and then we'll move on to the rest of that race. But yeah, we'll see you guys back here in about an hour coming up for the elite co-ed DEKA Fit teams. The race itself will kick off at 4:15. Our stream will start about 15 minutes before that. So we'll see you then.
Awesome. See you guys.